So let's create an interface. So I'm going to say interface. Okay, that's the keyword, and I'm going to call this click event. Right? And just like anything, of course, we're not passing in anything else. We're just creating here a body of our interface. So we're going to create that contract. We're going to create that specific function that anybody can implement. Okay, so I'm going to say fun on click, and we can pass a variable, and we can pass a parameter on click. I'm going to say message. It's going to be a string type as such. Okay, and we're going to leave it as it is because the idea is not to implement inside of this click event. This is an interface. The idea is that anybody who implements, in this case, quote unquote, inherits from click event will have to implement the onClick. So the idea is that the implementation of this function is going to be at the class level, meaning the class that implements this click event. So let's go ahead and create a button class here, a very simple one called button, and we're gonna just pass val for in its constructor properties here. Val, I'm gonna say label with string type, and that's fine. All right, and how do we say that this will implement? Right, so in this case, button will implement click event. Well, we put colon like this, just like inheritance. I'm gonna say click event as such. The moment we do that, notice something happens. Now class button, it has squiggly red line. What does that mean? Let's go ahead and hover over to see. What says class button is not abstract and does not implement abstract members. So it gives us here an option to say you must implement members. What members are we talking about? Well, we're talking about the onClick member function. So I'm going to go ahead and say implement, and this happens. This is happening because we're inside of Android Studio. It's a very smart IDE, so it helps us out. So in this case here, we have to implement that. So say OK, and voila. You can see now we have override fun on click. So this is the implementation. And in fact, it says here to do, not yet implemented, because we haven't done anything to implement the onClick function from our click event interface. Okay, so here, just to get rid of all of that, I'm going to just simply say println as such, and here I'm going to say clicked by, we just put say label, right? Oh, this should be label, typo there, and here's a message, and I'm going to pass the message that it's been passed when we invoke or implement onClick. And a few things you will see in Android Studio in this IDE. You're going to see that it says here, and there's I there. What that means is that implements function onClick if you hover over. Okay, if you hover over this one here, it's going to say is implemented by button. And if you hover over the second one, is implemented in my Kotlin.button. All right, so these are just visual representation. They don't really matter much, but it's just if we're using Android Studio or any smart IDE, we should get something like this. So there we go. Now in our main, I can say something like this. Val button, I'm going to say is equal. I'm instantiating now a button. Now be very careful. There is, of course, button from java.awt. So this is from Java library. So we want ours. So make sure you get the one that has your name or that has your package name that we created. There we go. And we need to pass a label. So I'm going to say label, in this case, button, like that. And then I can say button, invoke the onClick, right? So I want to pass a message. The message is going to be a string that may say something. This is a button. All right, let's go ahead and run. And you can see clicked by a button, and here's a message. This is a button. Now, because we talked about how a click event, this interface, it doesn't really matter who is implementing it. It could be related classes to button, as we saw before, or something totally different. So if I come here and create, for instance, another class called character, as such, I pass val name, as such, okay? And I'm going to also implement click event as such. And I'm going to have the same thing, saying that something has to happen. Oh, this has to be a string type. There we go. Same thing we saw before, we have to implement members. So this is a contract, because the moment you implement a click event, right, you say colon, click event, that means it's a contract, which means we will have to indeed implement it on click function. If we had other functions at the bottom here, we would have to do the same. It is a contract. You can't get out of it. That's the whole point. So in this case here, we can say Alt or Option Enter like this, and you see the option of implement members. Hit Enter, enter again, and you have it. And now I can say something different. Say println clicked by, oops, this should be inside of double quotes, clicked by, pass the name and a message, and pass the message. So now we can go to main, somewhere else where we can call it. I'm going to create an instance of our character. I'm going to say Super Mario, or something like this. It's equal to character. Make sure we get our character. That's very important. And then I'm going to pass a name, I believe. And then I can Super Mario that on click. When it's clicked, I'm going to pass in a message that says this an actor. Let's run. And there we go. So clicked my button. Here's a message. This is the button. And clicked by Super Mario. Here's a message. This is an actor. And there you have it. So now you've created an interface at the bottom here that has a function with no body, because the idea is that this will be implemented at the class level, as you see here. So every time that a character or any other class wants to take advantage of implementing this on click, they will have to, of course, implement the click event as such. This is a very powerful paradigm in programming because it gives us a lot of flexibility, as you can see. Anyone, by anyone I mean any class, can implement this interface regardless of the relationship. A character is not related to button at all, yet both can implement click event. Very well.